My last name?
I'm not going to say your last name. Rigoglioso. Glioso?
Riglioso.
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 Rigo,
Riglioso.
Riglioso. Riglioso.
Riglioso.
I bet you make a good pasta sauce. You better make a good pasta sauce.
I can make it. I can make a decent clam sauce.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I'll let you
Yeah.
off with that. I'm a red
and
sauce guy
and
myself.
cheesecake. And cheesecake. I'm known
And
for our
okay.
family cheesecake. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Danielle brings the cheesecake to the Thanksgiving and Christmas
Uh,
birthdays.
Either me or my dad. Yeah,
Oh,
one of us.
Dad pulls
Oh
it out.
yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
It's
I
a
would
good
go with that.
cheesecake.
I bet Dad makes a mean one.
Yeah, he does.
Well, hello everybody. It's just Danielle and I, and we're sitting here having a little chit chat about a little pre chat on mental health. Welcome everybody to the JAR Foundation podcast. A little bit different than my JAR show, the JAR, where I travel around and meet people and talk to total strangers about life stuff. And out of that, I saw a lot of mental health challenges that my guests had gone through across the country. You know, all kinds of people from all walks of life, and really impressed with their ability to get through and navigate themselves some pretty difficult moments. But could it be easier? Could it be a lot? There must be a different way. At least give people some tools, like I've been given in sales, to kind of help manage their own, mental the ups and downs, the regular easy stuff that I think can build up and turn into a bigger crisis or a bigger challenge, self talk or mental crisis, I think, down the road. And, if we can learn a few tools to kind of help ourselves, we can manage, that little gray space between our ears and have really good positive talk and good outlooks and conversations with ourselves will probably go a long way. I'm not an expert, definitely, and I'm definitely not. I'm just a shit poster and a shit talker generally. That's why I want to get people like Danielle in here to make sure I can learn as much as possible, say a few less silly things about the business, about the realities, and try to learn. So I'm really here to listen, Danielle. I'll ask you some. I will get into some. I'll try to steer some questions. Um,
Okay.
but maybe you tell. I think for people listening, watching, who are you as a person? Who are you as a professional? And then what have you seen in the business? And so far, what's your look back after 20 years? Looking at doing 15, 20 years. What's your look back? And then what's some advice for me at the end? But I'll coach you along. Let's go with the first one. Who are you, and what are you doing?
Who am I? All right. Well, I'm Denielle Rigoglioso. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Virginia. I'm licensed also in Florida as well.
Okay.
Um, Personally, I'm a beach girl at heart. Always have been, always will be. I love the ocean. I love to surf. Um, I I get joked for leaving the beach to go to the beach. So just a different beach is
Yeah,
where
yeah,
I
right. You're gonna
travel
Virginia.
to.
I love it.
Yeah, Virginia Beach to,
Surf
we just
beach,
went
surf side.
yeah, Costa Rica, Florida,
Oh, okay. Costa
yeah,
Rica
all
even.
kinds of places. Yeah, yeah, just came back from there in January actually. It's beautiful. It's my new favorite place.
Yeah, I could
So,
imagine.
yeah. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I have a family, and like I said, I live here in Virginia Beach. I'm born and raised in Virginia. Um, Professionally, just to go way back,
Hmm.
um, I think as middle schoolers and high schoolers, we're always trying to kind of figure out what we want to do. And I learned at a very early age that I had a really keen sense on understanding connections between different people. And I remember sitting back and going, well, if you just said this and if you just did this, then this wouldn't happen.
Wow.
And
As a
and this would
kid,
be as a kid, yes, as a kid.
that's so heavy.
Um yeah, so I really knew quite early on that I wanted to go into some sort of helping profession.
Okay.
And so I started in psychology. I'm a Virginia Tech graduate. So there's another little personal thing about me. I'm Hokie
Oh,
and very proud of that.
I love it.
And yeah, and so really started my professional career in 2003 as a counselor. I worked in community-based mental health for years.
Yeah.
Um, and here in Virginia, community-based mental health, you're interacting with the community, you're going into the homes, you're providing
Yes.
individual and family counseling right there, right where everything is happening. It's a
In
really
the home.
in the home, yes. Uh,
Oh,
so we
okay.
kind of,
That's
yeah. So the goal is to keep the youth or the adult, depending on which service you are providing, out of the hospital. So
yes.
stabilize in the home, stabilize in the community, so they don't have to go to a behavioral health unit.
Hmm.
And so I did that for a really long time. I also worked in a private day school for ED kids. So kids with behavioral or educational delays,
Development. Yeah.
developmental delays.
Yeah.
I had kindergarten through fourth grade in one classroom. Uh, yeah, yeah.
Wait, I'm
uh,
trying.
I,
Okay.
I know. I took a short break after that. I'll tell you. I took
I,
a
I,
2-year hiatus from the profession altogether because it was just so much. Um, at
yes.
such at I was young. I was in my
And you were a
20s.
kid. You were a kid. Yeah.
I mean, I was really a kid. Yeah,
Yeah, you were a kid. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. You're a kid in
um,
your 20s.
Yeah. Yeah. I went back to school, um, and didn't particularly care for the college that I went to. Started my master's. I was commuting. I was doing this job
Oh,
there.
okay. Yeah.
And so it wasn't a good fit. And so, thankfully, actually, because I don't even know if the college was, um, had the accreditation to even get me licensed in the state of Virginia. I didn't know anything at the time.
You were
It's
going on.
actually been one of the things I've really enjoyed, helping other people come up in the profession to learn and educate them on kind of the steps into becoming a licensed professional
Okay.
counselor. So, but then I ended up having a child, which, I still worked in community-based mental health. I jumped back in. I knew this is not where I was supposed to be in this, I don't even, corporate world or whatever I was doing, data analyst. I don't even know
I love that.
anymore. I knew that that's where I was supposed to be. So in '07, I dove back into mental health and, had my daughter, started a family, and realized that I needed to go back to school. So, ended up being a single mom, raising up my child, and going to school and working full time, and completing my master's program. Yeah, it
Totally
was
normal. Yeah.
totally normal.
Yeah. Sleeping
But
5 hours a night. Totally
I
normal.
I put her to bed, and then
Go
that was
study.
my me time, and I
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
homework, and yeah, I
Yeah.
was up late at night and rinse and repeat.
Which,
So, yeah, so it was very exciting, once I graduated from my master's program. I had the opportunity to open, and start, 2 practices for a large company. Well, at that time, it was much smaller,
hmm.
in the state of Virginia, 2 community-based practices, and I got to build them from the ground up, with the help of other folks in the state. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you
I was
got a good education on how to start a practice.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Um, absolutely,
Or
absolutely.
and how not to start a
I
practice.
I learned lots of things,
Yeah.
what to do, what not to do,
Yep.
all of the things. And I knew that my future goal was to open my own practice. I
Okay.
just, I thought it would happen like much later in life, not where I'm at now. I'm super grateful that it happened now. I think COVID was just a really good the silver lining. Okay,
Yeah.
silver
Yeah.
lining to the pandemic
Yeah. Sure.
is it opened up telehealth.
Yes.
And so access,
Absolutely.
it was huge. And so that allowed me to, once I became licensed, um, it allowed me to open my practice, do it virtually from home, which
Wow.
is super helpful. And of course, other people can see me from their home or their car or wherever they are on their lunch break. The access is just so incredibly, we're really blessed to have had that opportunity to have that come out just boom so fast.
And I mean, human behavior, we don't change that quickly, right? As humans.
Right.
So
Right.
this was so forced.
Yeah.
I super much hated Zoom meetings. I hated being on video calls. Absolutely thought it was a train wreck. Would refuse to do it. Go to drive. I'd rather drive to the office. And then COVID came, and
Yeah.
I'm a believer.
Yeah, it took a while for me to adjust too. And I had previously been doing telehealth therapy through one of the larger platforms. We
Okay.
talked about that
Hmm.
earlier. Um, and so I had there was, there is just a little bit. It was just a little tiny bit, it really, the floodgates didn't open until COVID happened.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you start to get way more comfortable. Everybody's more comfortable. I have folks call in and they're like, I really wanted to see somebody in person. And I tell them, I'm like, if you haven't tried it, try it. Try it. If you don't like it, it's okay. I'll help you
Yeah.
find somebody else in the community for you to see in person. But try it, because so far I haven't had one person go, yeah, I don't like this telehealth thing. I'm not going to see you anymore. So
I
yeah, so it's really, it really helped blossom and allow more access. And of course, it also allowed me to open my practice. And so I
Yeah.
opened in July of 2021, Saltwater Counseling and Wellness.
Great name. I
And
love that.
yeah,
Love the name, by the way.
speechy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's true to you, and
Yeah,
it's a cool name.
it's definitely true to me.
Yeah,
It took me a while to think of that one, to come up with it. I had all kinds of
I'm
cool
sure.
names,
I'm sure it was a cool
beach names
process.
that none of my friends were like, you can't do that.
Silver dollar. Now, what is that? The dollar? What do you call those dollars? The little beachy dollars?
Oh,
Sand dollars.
Sand dollars.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been cute too. But yeah, so now I am, I practice from home. I have one staff, and she practices from home virtually. And yeah, my hopes is to continue to grow that and continue to be able to provide a really safe place for other
Yeah.
therapists to feel comfortable and to work and to feel supported, and continue to help people,
Yeah.
you know?
It's I mean the remote stuff is quite interesting. So you've worked with the big company. What are the challenges with the big companies right now? Because we're going to go through, I think we're going to go through some growing pains. Look, I love leaders, and right place, right time for a couple of the big firms. Right
Yeah,
place, right time, good marketing,
right,
VC money to burn and extra money to burn once probably COVID started, they got another injection. So there's going to
right.
be a lot of booming. And of course,
Yes.
in that, there's going to be a lot of disasters and bad press and stories, which we've seen.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a kind of a pullback, and maybe there'll be I don't know who the regulators, who knows what will happen. They'll pass some stupid law to try to, look good for somebody. But in the end, it's here to stay. It's
Yeah.
really powerful. It addresses access.
Yeah.
I think it probably hits cost for some people. It'll be more affordable for some therapists to deliver a little bit better, but is it going to hit the cost or no?
Well, I think it does, because I'm not going to say I never, uh, I never, well, okay, let's say it. I never thought that I would own a virtual practice. Like I didn't ever
Yes.
think that I would do that. So, that's why I thought I would start so much later in life of opening my own practice, because you have to have,
You need a quarter,
all the backing,
you
and
need $250,000.
yeah, you have to have a
Yeah.
building and space,
Yep.
and, a
And
lot of
a
upfront
nice
costs.
office with
Right.
reception, right? You
Right.
need a very interesting in a nice building. You can't just put it in some warehouse.
Right.
You're not making beer.
Right, right, exactly. And so the virtual practice allows you to really low cost startup, and to be able to dive into it very
Oh,
quickly. Yeah.
okay. So interesting. It'll create a lot of
Mhm.
people so we were going to see a lot of Danielles.
I think so. Honestly, I think that's my goal. I really feel very passionate about helping others.
Hmm.
In the work that I do and the work with my clients, I absolutely adore them, and I just love what I do.
Yeah.
But I also love helping professionals grow. So I'm really passionate about helping residents. So once you graduate from your
Yeah.
master's program, you've got to get,
Yeah.
3,400 hours in the state of Virginia. And yeah, and supervision hours. Yeah, it takes 2 to 4 years
Yeah,
to
that's a
even
couple of
get
years of work.
licensed. Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's a
I mean,
lot.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So, really teaching our folks that are going into their master's program, really teaching them throughout the process to become licensed, and also how do you do what I'm doing? How do you start a virtual practice? How do you open your own practice? And so far, I've been able to, um, not as part of my work, but just because I'm passionate initially
Right.
about it, and I was able to do it myself. Have been helping some of my other colleagues do the same thing. And the cool part about it is that there really isn't enough of us. There really isn't. If you ask
Mhm.
anybody, they're calling all these places. Uh, and we can't get to them fast enough, or we don't have openings. Like, I don't, my staff has openings now that I brought her on, but I
It
don't
won't
have any openings.
and it won't be long
So,
before she's filled.
and it won't be long before she's filled.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you have to, previously, if you had to open a brick and mortar practice, it really limits, again, it hits the access button.
Oh, it
So
kills the
now,
access bunny. And again,
yeah,
cost. I mean,
yeah,
you when you sit on the couch, you're paying for everything you can see
right.
for that 20, for that 20 minutes or 1 hour,
Yeah.
because it's got to get paid. That's the first thing, your first 20 minutes on the couch are paying for the couch
Right, right,
and your gas to
right.
get there and your time and everything
Sure.
else. So it's
Absolutely.
so much more practical to do this. I think,
Yeah.
do you guys have, as an industry, I should say, we or you or the industry, do we have numbers on the number of therapists that we need versus what we've got? Is there anybody
I
putting those numbers out there? Like,
I haven't seen that. We obviously need more.
yeah,
It's just difficult. It's really difficult. There's a lot of barriers. There's the insurance barriers.
yep,
Um, so I understand the barriers on the patient side, right? The
yes,
access
hmm,
and the cost and
cost,
the time and all of that. On
education, yeah, yeah,
Right, on
stigma.
stigma, yes, absolutely. On the professional side, we have a lot of barriers too. Um, and so I guess my hope is that as once you take the genie out of the bottle, I feel like you can't put it back in. So I think telehealth is here to stay.
I love that.
So
This is. Hey, could you imagine 10 years ago if you had told a clinical, like somebody with the office smoking their pipe behind their desk, that you were going to open up a telehealth for mental health?
yeah, yeah, they
some
would allow.
some 60-year-old guy looks like
Right.
me, been in the business for 40 years.
Yeah.
What are you doing on the
What
phone? I'll have your
Right.
license. I'll have your
Right.
license by noon.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But look at us now.
Look at
Um,
us now.
Look at us now. Yeah. So some cool things coming down the pipeline. Hopefully, we have the interstate compact coming through,
Oh,
which will
what's
allow.
that?
So that allows
Oh,
licensed therapists to. Yeah. So they had to get 10 states to. Now,
okay.
don't quote me on all of
Yeah, yeah,
this
okay.
these
I'm
things. I
So it's like me.
If I say them wrong,
Yeah,
the
a disclaimer,
bill.
Danielle and I, anything we say is probably partially true.
Right. Yeah, I know I'll put air quotes, the bill I think that passed,
Okay.
and they had to have 10, basically they had to have 10 states that signed this,
Okay.
in order to move forward and start building
Put
the
on the list.
board.
Yeah, okay.
So then I believe there's been 10 states that have signed the interstate compact. And so I guess they're in the process of building the board that
Yep.
would support. Then when that's done, then somebody like myself can apply, and we can then practice in all the states that are signed. So it really does open access even more. Yeah, because right now, if my client moves to North Carolina, which we're real close to the
It's
border, I can't see them.
I That's
You have to go to a
goofy.
new therapist, and you've spent 6 months, a year of your life seeing me or longer. and you want to move or need to move or have to move, and then you have to start fresh and new with somebody else. That's really tough, and for some folks, they, could even be of a shorter amount of time. It's just hard. And so it just allows more access. There's the other piece to access is
That's
people that
great.
are in rural areas
I was
now
going to say,
have,
like, I mean, Nebraska or Wyoming, there's only
right.
two cities that a therapist could afford to live in to generate enough revenue to do a business. If you go in a
Right.
small town, who are you going to see?
Right.
You run,
All
I
your
mean,
friends, which
oh,
you can't do. You
which
can't
you
do
can't,
that.
which you literally can't do, right?
No, you literally cannot do that.
Yeah. So,
So,
so
yeah.
it's interesting that this is just. I love how that this is coming. This is really coming now. Open market, open practice. Great. That's a great piece of
Yeah.
news.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really great.
So we
And
maybe it's done. Maybe we got the 10 states and they're cooking and going to do
yeah.
their. Um, I guess if they form their own board and then states sign on. Before you know it, you'll
Yeah.
have 20, 30 states.
Yeah. Yeah, we would love to be nationally licensed. That's ideally, it would be great if the standards were the same everywhere in every state. So, but
I'll
they're
make
not. They're not the same. That's the problem. Every state has its own criteria for you to become a therapist. So
yeah. Well,
Virginia is one of the hardest states to become licensed in.
oh, okay. So you're in this good. You're on the right side of that.
Right here. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you.
Thankfully, all that's over.
I have a prediction that there'll be a couple states with really good lobbying efforts on behalf of the Therapists Association, and they will block it.
Yeah, we actually have a really good set of lobbyists here that does a lot of really good work for us to back us and help
To-
us. So,
yeah,
yeah,
there's going to be an establishment, right? You are
yeah,
definitely shaking the establishment with this.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
I love this. It doesn't matter what the service, it doesn't matter the industry, and even who they treat or affect or service.
hmm,
That there's always going to be a lobby in there to protect the status quo,
yes,
and even against all common sense about giving more people access, the funding, making it more affordable and everything, reduce the stigmas. I don't have to go. I can do it in my house.
right.
And
On your
people who,
lunch break in your car, I just tell my clients to just make sure that you're in a private space where we can, where you can talk freely.
I, I mean, amazing, right? You go out to your car
Yeah,
at lunch and have that chat once a week.
right.
Powerful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Go back into the office feeling fresh. You got your head squared back on. You got your reasonably you've told your brain what is doing right and wrong. Like these thoughts
Right.
are good, those thoughts are bad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you go back in and you know how to talk to you can work with staff, or if you're a staff,
Mhm.
you know how to talk, boss is giving you a headache, you got some good tools from your therapist,
Right.
and you're like, oh, I can get through this.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. I love that. I think this is such a great development.
It
Um,
really truly is. It
and
absolutely is.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to see how it shakes out. How the big ones that are there, the big monsters. I don't know if there's one or two or three or four.
There's a
Uh,
lot of them. There's a lot of them, and it will be really interesting because I see the need for the brick and mortar,
yeah, yeah.
in-person therapy. You have to have that
You
too.
have to have that. I
Yeah.
can't imagine that goes away.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna go away. I do appreciate the larger companies because they do rally for, we have a lot of years, 10 years of education and supervision, residency, uh, we have to take a big test, exam, like, we have all of this that we have to prepare for just to be licensed, just to practice. And so, um, the larger companies that are out there are really rallying for therapists to be
Ah,
compensated in a way that suits our education and what we put
yes,
into what we do. So that's the part I really love. There are a few of them that really aren't great on the therapist side because they give too much access to the therapist. And we have
yes,
to protect our mental health too. And so we need to also have our downtime. And so um, protecting that space so that you can have time for your family and self-care. And we really pour a lot of time and energy into the people that we see. because that's what we're passionate about doing. And so we have
If
to
you're,
be able to turn it off. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you're in the business, you've got to have passion. Otherwise you'll burn out very quickly.
Right. But
You'll be
some of the,
gone.
exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
some of the platforms kind of breach some of those boundaries a little bit with like, texting and, free at 24/7 access kind of thing.
I
And
wondered how that worked. Like,
yeah,
WhatsApp, like, call me anytime on WhatsApp. Like, holy cow. And also that's may not be the greatest therapy thing in a way, right? Where you just, I mean, I would imagine there'd
I,
be some clients that would use that wrongly.
I, you know, the,
Does that sound, is
you
that
don't,
what,
you don't know who's on the other end.
and you
You
don't
don't,
know who's on the other end.
I mean, certainly have to log in,
Oh
to
yeah,
the
that's
platform, but you don't know who's on the other end. You don't know who's
could be the
watching. You
boyfriend,
don't
or it
know
could
who's,
be, right. Could be the
could
boyfriend.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So
when you're,
there's a
yeah,
few of those
interesting.
larger platforms that allow like, chat sessions
Hmm.
and things of that nature. And as therapists, most of us are, I don't know if most of us, a lot of us aren't really on board with that. We don't think that's the best
There might be a place for it,
approach.
but probably not at the therapist. I mean, probably
Sure.
that could be I mean, that should be Chat GPT or something.
Life coaching, maybe.
It could, right,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's where it
Yeah.
belongs. Like
Yeah.
it's not at the level of where I'm in a crisis mode. That's called 988. You dial a phone number
Yep.
and talk to a professional if you're in a bad situation, and if you've got time to chat with your therapist off
Yeah. That's been
on a,
another really
yeah,
great development in the last 2 years is the 988 number.
great idea. I mean, it's so silly that
Yeah.
we didn't have it before.
I know. I know.
Right? Really
Yeah.
goofy. Think about it.
Yeah.
I had never heard of it until somebody mentioned it about a month ago. I
Yeah.
had no idea.
Yeah. It's relatively new.
Yeah, so it's great. I think that's a good one to talk to people about, a place. Yeah, that'd be fun to see how it shakes out. I think this is like anything, a lot of new things, and those big companies are not just therapy companies, but they're revenue
Right.
generating companies. They have shareholders, so
Right. They're
they're going to
tech
be,
companies. They're
and
tech companies
it's a
building
tech.
therapeutic,
Actually,
right,
it's a tech
practices.
company, right?
Yeah.
It's a tech
Yeah.
company that's figured out a way to insert humans into its model and make money.
Yeah.
I got a customer human and a therapist human, and and then we have engagement, and then
Right.
we give them access, and it's all very technical. It's all
Yeah.
the throughput. I'm sure their conversations are really interesting at the board level. Probably nothing about humans.
Probably, probably not. Hopefully they have clinical folks doing some sort of guidance there. I'm
Oh,
sure
I'm
they
sure they
do.
got a couple on the
I,
board just for,
yeah.
you got to have your art. You got to have your art
Right.
on the walls, but it's a
Right.
business. I mean, this is a business. And I'm
Yeah.
sure they have metrics around doing it well, and people who graduate and people who get better.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
a
They
measurement.
do.
Yeah, I'm sure they have really good stats. And for
They
all the
do.
mistakes the big guys make in these early years, I would argue that the net is very positive.
I believe it is. Absolutely.
I think you
Absolutely.
can write all the horror, you can get all the New York Times horror story articles you want. At the end, it's a net positive for
Yeah.
people.
Well, I'm super grateful. I use one of the platforms because it circumvents all of the insurance what's a nice way to say it,
Yeah,
cluster that
yeah,
billing and all of that is. They handle it all for you. And so, it just makes things, you're not waiting for reimbursement. You're not dealing with denials. And
right.
yeah, it's so that the insurance companies do make it really hard. These larger companies that have come up, these therapeutic companies, are making it easier for therapists. That is the nice part.
So yeah, you might, yeah, you might sacrifice some of your preferences to end up there because you're like, yeah, at the end, it's just easier to do business.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
could see that because,
Yeah,
I mean, for sure, I cannot imagine trying to manage the back end of a billing with insurance companies. I mean, I'm an insurance guy.
yeah,
I mean, I know, and
yeah,
I can't imagine what that's like dealing with the claims people. Um, Holy cow!
yeah. So I've been able to avoid all of that so far. And of course you can hire somebody to do all that for you as
Yeah,
well. But that really helped leverage me to be able to move
to
forward.
be able to move forward. And so
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is a remote platform that's similar to these. Is it a new
yeah.
company that's come up? And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's for therapists who do remote work.
Yeah, are we allowed to use names
Yeah,
in here?
absolutely. For me, I'm
Okay,
okay.
okay. I
Absolutely.
use Headway. I use
Okay,
Headway. I've
use
been
Headway.
really,
Okay. So it's
yeah, I've been
like an
really pleased with
admin
it.
and booking system, like a whole complete.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Love that.
calendar system in there. I still
Yeah.
use my own stuff,
Yeah.
and just transfer it over there to theirs when I need to submit the claim.
Yeah.
So really, I really do just use them solely for the claim, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
insurance
Claim management.
verification
Yeah.
things. Yeah, yeah.
That's
So, I don't have to. If I submitted it myself, I would have to, do all that back end work, and then wait, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, a month for reimbursement for the
or
service.
or a letter that says we need more information or declined or
Exactly.
something.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, I think it's really great. It's a really great opportunity for folks who are wanting to go out on their own and really start their own practice to be able to start doing that very quickly.
Great way to close. We're holy cow, look down, we're already there. I don't, yeah, it just, and this is the fun part of we talked earlier, right? This is the fun part and the
Yeah,
scary part. It's over fast.
it was over
Um,
really fast. Yeah.
how about some advice for, what's your own advice for you 2 years ago when you were thinking about opening your practice? What you've learned and everything. What would be some advice to somebody who's like you, sitting
Mhm,
on somebody else's payroll, and they know they want to get out and they're planning it and they're making the
mhm.
moves. What's some advice for them?
Um, Call me.
Yeah, I
I'll
love
help you.
that's the best one.
Call
That's the
me and I'll
best
help you.
because everybody's situation is going to be so unique.
Yeah,
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 yeah, Danielle,
yeah,
that's a really kind thing to say. Um, that's a great advice. So, is call me, let's talk, find out your situation.
yeah.
Um,
Super
how about
happy to help folks on
How about
both
some
ends of the.
advice for me? How about some advice for a crazy guy who's running around doing this stuff and decided I want to jump, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. I want my own nonprofit to do it my way. And, I want to see what I can help out. And, as people that come in front, as the universe puts people in front of my path that I'm supposed to meet, hopefully I can help them. What advice have you got for, early in this journey?
Wow. Yeah. So make sure that you take care of yourself along the way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Thank you for that.
Set some boundaries, have some self-care time.
Yeah.
Don't run yourself into the ground. Your heart is in it. Just make sure that you protect your heart, and you practice that self-care as you go along. Compassion fatigue is real, and I can
I
tell you're very compassionate about this.
Yeah, I think I had a little compassion fatigue at the end in
Yeah,
December. I realized, I think when I saw the finish line,
yeah,
I gave up. Does that make
yeah,
sense? Like I saw the
yeah.
finish, like like my last city, I'm sorry, Columbia, South Carolina. That was where I went to school and I'm a Gamecock. I was there and it was my last city in December and I just fell flat. I mean, I was like,
Oh,
because that was my last city.
hmm,
And I did some, I listened to the interviews. They were great, but I didn't
yeah,
do as many, like, I just kind of like, I didn't, these last two cities, I saw the finish line and I was like, I was fatigued. I was for sure
yeah,
mentally fatigued after 8 months of listening to stories,
yeah,
200 interviews. Um, I was a little, I was a bit fried.
yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
but it was also business fried too, a lot of
Yeah.
running the business and doing everything. So it wasn't just the compassion. But I have a few guests that stuck with me. I had a
Mhm.
few where the stories stuck with me, and I lost a guest this week.
Oh.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened. Second city,
Mhm.
first guy I met, first guy I picked up in a bar for my show.
Yeah.
I walked into the bar and we chit chatted and and shared some. We were sharing a beer and told him my story, and then he invited me to his house to be a guest.
Wow.
And I met his wife. It's a great couple, long backstory, of course. But I just got a message from his wife. He passed away, and
Oh, wow.
and I don't know what it is. I wouldn't speculate, but
Yeah.
he had some tough moments in life, so it could be anything.
Yeah.
Those are when I was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, that hits hard." He's like a friend
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
He was a guest, but he
Absolutely.
was more than a guest. I went to his house for dinner twice.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean,
you,
it's like
yeah.
it was like my friend, and it was like
Yeah.
a really good early memory of the journey. So yeah,
Yeah.
you got to protect yourself. I think
You
it's
have to,
really
absolutely.
powerful words.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denielle, for that.
Thank you.
I love the advice. Anybody thinking about doing it, I think the idea is do it. First one is do it. If you're
Do it.
thinking about it, do it. Do it,
Yep.
right?
Just do it.
First
Just do it.
advice, your
Yeah.
first piece of advice,
Just do
remote, is do
it.
it.
Do
Second
it.
advice,
Yes.
call me.
Call me. I'll help you.
Yeah, call me. I'll help you. Thanks everybody for watching, for listening, and sharing what we're doing. Please comment, on the LinkedIn if you're there, or Facebook, not now, but just do share and everything. And I'll see Denielle somewhere on the other
Yeah.
side. Let's see if I can find my exit strategy here and the end little broadcast. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Denielle.
Thank you, Ken.